The only thing better in mainstream cinema than a devious, diabolical, scheming villain is watching a hero overcome their dastardly plot against all the odds. It's a tried and tested formula that's brought us many a great blockbuster, except of course, when it hasn't. In fact, a lot of brilliant movies actually feature villains with more than their fair share of faults, meaning that when the gallant hero swoops in to save the day, the downfall of the big bad can often be of their own doing rather than the ingenuity of a protagonist. So, who wants to look at some celebrated baddies who were actually undone by their own ridiculous stupidity? Well, you do, presumably you clicked the video. I'm Peter from Whatculture.com, and here are 8 movie villains so stupid they deserved to fail. Number 8. Hans Gruber had no legitimate escape plan. Die Hard. The big thing the first Die Hard had that none of the sequels could ever replicate was Hans Gruber. Now a minor player in the Die Hard quintet, Alan Rickman's Robber still stands up as one of the best villains in action cinema. But while I'll give you he's a pretty smart guy who's a joy to watch, his plan is far from airtight. The whole pretend to be terrorists to steal lots of money ruse is pretty smart, but getting all those bonds is useless when he has no legitimate way out of the place. Think about it. His getaway vehicle is completely inadequate for starters. It's an ambulance that doesn't have enough space for all of his gang and loot. What's more, it's trapped in a sealed off car park. Great. Obviously he didn't plan for the police and FBI to turn up with quite as much info as they did, but even in its McClane-less form, the escape plan isn't really any better than jumping off the 40th floor. Number 7. Voldemort wastes multiple opportunities to kill Harry. Harry Potter. The practice of monologuing is a villain trope long lambasted, but one baddie who somehow manages to avoid ridicule for this is Voldemort. Multiple times when he's had the opportunity to kill Harry Potter, he's instead rambled away, giving the boy wizard the opportunity to die another day. It happens throughout the series, as early as the first installment, but the standout moments come in the 4th and 5th films. In both cases, Voldemort has Harry totally defenseless, but the chosen one manages to escape anyway. At this point, you-know-who knows full well from previous run-ins with Harry that the boy is trouble and would be well worth getting out of the way, but he chooses to take his sweet-ass time for seemingly no reason. Now, of course, Harry wouldn't have actually died, being a Horcrux, but that isn't the point. Voldemort could have ended the resistance long before it began, and when Harry did come back, he'd be lacking some of the key powers, such as Parcel Tongue and the ability to see into Voldemort's mind, that proved instrumental in his victory. Tom Riddle suddenly gained a sense of honourability towards his nemesis that he never showed to any of his previous victims, which in the end proved fatal. Idiot. Number 6. Wouldn't Norman Osborn's glider have hit him anyway? Spider-Man. Everyone always seems to jump on the poor Osborn butler as the stupidest character in Sam Raimi's Spider-Man films, but while he could have got Harry up to speed a little bit quicker, none of the later angst is really his fault. Norman dies when his attempt to kill Peter Parker backfires and he's stabbed by his own glider. Now, I'm no deranged supervillain, nor am I a qualified physicist, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that even if the glider stabbed Peter as intended, it was flying with far too much speed to not just turn the pair of them into a comic book kebab together. Raimi's iteration of the Green Goblin managed to escape the blemish of his slightly kooky costume, all thanks to Willem Dafoe's respectable performance, but nothing takes away from how silly his death was. Number 5. Alex Trevelyan's stolen funds won't be worth anything. GoldenEye. Hey guys, I've got a great idea. Let's steal all the money from the Bank of England and then cover our tracks by erasing all financial records via an electromagnetic satellite attack. That'll be good. Won't it be good? It'll be really, really good when we then try and spend that money on cars and pizza and a big dartboard with 007's face on it before realising that by crippling the British economy, there's been a massive shift in the value of currency and the ease at which one can use it. Wiping all financial records from a major player in Western trade and economics is sure as hell not the way to make it easy for you to buy nice things. Oh dear. Number 4. Davy Jones and the Kraken just let the good guys win. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest. The way that giant tentacle monster of the deep Mr. Horace Kraken is portrayed in the second Pirates of the Caribbean is enough to make you erroneously think that movie scenes are shot in chronological order, exactly as the narrative plays out, without any forward thinking as to where the story is actually going to end up. The film's first attack sequence of the mythical octopus, in which it yanks a merchant vessel beneath the waves in mere seconds, is a wonderful moment. Immediately we understand the horrifying implications of the black spot, and why Jack refuses to sail out into open water. Unfortunately, it then feels as though the filmmakers realise they've made a terrible OP mistake. Recognising that the monster is far too powerful and works far too quickly for our heroes to stand up to, the following Kraken attack takes a good minute or two, and then by the time it catches up with the Black Pearl towards the end of the movie, the beastie decides to caress the ship and throw around its crew for what seems like an entire geological era. Why is it taking so long all of a sudden? As I say, this is actually just down to poor writing, direction, and forward planning, but within the narrative itself, it just comes across like the mythological monster equivalent of monologuing. Number 3, Emperor Palpatine sets a trap that gives the rebels a chance. Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. The majority of the runtime of the Star Wars prequels seem to be spent showing us just how intelligent Senator cum Chancellor cum Emperor Palpatine really was. The entire trilogy was basically just his evil scheme of galactic proportions being pulled off without a hitch, and it's actually rather wonderful to watch such an ambitious plan come together, even if the movies are marred by some other issues. However, while those 3 films made him out to be a true evil genius, audiences had to take it with a pinch of salt, because previously, in the finale of the original trilogy, he came across as rather stupid. In Return of the Jedi, the climax centres around what at face value seems like a brilliant trap, famously spotted rather late in proceedings by Admiral Akbar. I'm not going to say it. However, dig even just a tiny bit deeper and you'll see that it's actually a terrible plan indeed. Essentially, Palpatine tries to bait the rebel fleet towards what they don't know is a fully armed and operational battle station, and he does so by supposedly leaking the location of another weak spot in a Death Star to a number of Bothan spies. However, rather than giving these spies dummy information, he literally tells them exactly where the weak point is, meaning that if everything doesn't go exactly to plan and the Imperial fleet don't wipe out their attackers in good time, the rebels have all the knowledge and firepower they need to genuinely destroy the Death Star. Oops. Number 2, Sauron always gives up when the ring disappears from view, The Lord of the Rings. You have to wonder sometimes if a movie villain is really as fearful as the heroes make him out to be, and nowhere is this more apparent than with the Lord of the Rings' big bad, Sauron, a ruler who is well aware of his one weakness and yet consistently allows it to slip through his fingers. Multiple times throughout the trilogy, Sauron knows exactly where the ring is, but just turns his eye elsewhere. The worst example comes when Frodo is at the base of the one place the ring can be destroyed, and he looks away after a couple of seconds just because a fight he can have very little influence over is occurring some way off in the distance. Why didn't he just send the Nazgul to Mount Doom, nab the ring, and then enjoy the battle with a nice bowl of cornflakes once he knew it was in safe hands? It's not just the Big Eye who's at fault here either. The Ringwraiths not only did a bad job of checking behind branches across the series, but they also let a few puny arrows stop them from getting a sure thing in the Two Towers climax. Forget the selfish eagles, this is the biggest hole in the trilogy. And number 1, Scar is a terrible lion, the Lion King. Now, I'm not actually here to call out Scar on his ability to rule the Pride Lands without them becoming a barren wasteland, because I can't believe for one second that the entire ecosystem would be affected by a change in monarch. Sometimes nature just does freaky shit that's out of our control, and this would have happened anyway, even if Simba or Mufasa were king. But what I am happy to do is call Scar a terrible excuse for an alpha male lion. In the wild, in real life, male lions will not hesitate for a second to kill cubs in order to maintain their dominance over the pride. Granted, while Mufasa is on the scene, Scar would have to be very careful about how he did that, but in the immediate aftermath of the king's death, Scar bizarrely decides to maintain his caring uncle pretense with Simba, rather than just killing him right there and then in the gorge with no witnesses. Only seconds later, he sends his 3 hyena cronies to do the dirty work for him, but in his own words, it's clear from their vacant expressions the lights are not all on upstairs. Why risk sending 3 moronic hyenas who Scar himself describes as thick when he could pretty much swallow Simba whole right now? Because he's a big, idiotic idiot, that's why. Oh, I sure told him.
Oh, I shall practice my courtesy.
And that is our list. Did we miss any out? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can read more articles like this on Whatculture.com, and you can follow us on Twitter right here. I'm Peter from Whatculture.com, and I'll see you soon.